Hello everyone, Lawrence here with the thinnest laptop that I've ever tested on this channel. This convertible ultrabook is the Acer Spin 7. It's a 14-inch super thin laptop. Before I dive into the specs, let's look at what it looks like next to its competition. So while the top and bottom display bezels are pretty large, the side bezels are nice and thin, and this makes for a small footprint compared to the average 14-inch laptop. Now personally, I've been using Surface devices for the last few years, so that's what I'll mostly be referring to in this video. So starting with the display, it's a 14-inch 1080p IPS model. Now it's not the most color accurate, but for most users it's perfectly fine. Being only 1080p also helps with battery life. It's also a 10-point touchscreen, but sadly it doesn't have pen support. I would personally prefer a 3:2 aspect ratio instead of the massive bottom bezel. The display is bright enough to use outdoors, but the panel is really reflective. The one-handed hinge is nice, but the screen wobbles just a little bit too much for my liking. Now, one of the things I really like with the Spin 7 is the keyboard. It's a normal layout without any weirdly shaped keys. Typing feels good with no noticeable flex to it. I typed this 2-page review and a bunch of other stuff on the Spin 7 and I found it very pleasurable. Key travel is plenty, noise is minimal, and while it is a tiny little bit squishy feeling, it is very consistent across all the keys. Now for a convertible device which you'll be using at night times in bed, for example, I would really like to see backlit keys, which we don't have on this model. Under the keyboard is a really wide plastic touchpad with great gesture support, and you can also set up custom gestures, stuff like that. It also has really good palm rejection, so when I'm typing I never actually accidentally move the cursor around or anything like that. The clicks are also really nice, crispy, well defined, just like I like my touchpads. Now something I'm still having mixed feelings about are the speakers. They sound alright and they can easily be adjusted through the Dolby software, but they're mounted on the bottom of the device, and this makes them sound great when you're in tent or monitor mode, but they also sound a little bit muffled when using it as a laptop. Overall then, the Spin 7 is a pretty nice device to work on, consume media with, and I took it to school, used it both in and outdoors, and I never felt scared to throw it in a backpack. It just feels really well made. It's not quite MacBook or Surface level quality, but Acer gets pretty close with the Spin 7. And unlike the MacBook or the Surface, this one can easily be opened if you need to replace the battery, a Wi-Fi card or the SSD. They all come with an i7 Y series CPU and 8GB of solid RAM, but SSD can be swapped in 5 minutes, which is really nice. Both the read and write speeds are as good as a SATA interface will allow for. I would personally like NVMe drives, but with this one it still feels pretty quick and snappy. Something to keep in mind with the Spin 7 though is that it's a fingerprint magnet. If you even look at it the wrong way, you will smudge it. Now, as you would expect from a Y series CPU, which is a dual-core hyper-threaded i7 with really low clock speeds, performance isn't anything to write home about. Gaming, forget about it. Video editing, well, if you stick to 1080p you might get away with it, but the export times are insanely long. It's not for any intensive work. But if you want to be watching videos, play some really casual games, or if what you want to do is office work, some coding, then this really is a great device for that. And luckily, because of this Y series CPU with only a 4.5 watt TDP, the system is passively cooled and therefore completely inaudible. The top, however, can get a little bit hot to the touch, making it slightly uncomfortable when using it as a laptop. So comfort then could be better. It's a little too heavy to use as a tablet and a little too hot to keep on your lap. Luckily, the keyboard and touchpad stay nice and cool for when you're typing. Tent mode, therefore, is the ideal mode for watching video as it offers the best audio quality and comfort. Because of the really low TDP and the giant 43 watt-hour battery, you can expect around 8 hours of video playback or work at around 50% brightness. This should be just enough for the average work or school day. And if you need more juice, the charger is nice and small so you can carry it easily. Talking about carrying stuff with you, you might want to keep a dongle or two with you. Because it's so thin, there are only 2 USB Type-C ports on the right-hand side. Now, Acer luckily includes a Type-C to Type-A dongle, but you might want to take some extra dongles with you as well for card readers and stuff like that. It also doesn't have Thunderbolt support, which I'm quite bummed about. And if I'm really nitpicking here, I would prefer to see the I/O on the left side so that it doesn't interfere with a mouse. For example, if you have your mouse here, you have like a dongle with a USB drive sticking out. It's really not that great to have the I/O on the right side. Instead, on the left side, we just have a power button and a completely pointless volume rocker because there are volume controls on the keyboard as well. And because there are 2 buttons on the left side, I find it pretty difficult to find the right button. especially because you're switching modes all the time, and so the position of the buttons changes all the time depending on the mode you're in. The 720p webcam in the Spin 7 is pretty sub-average. The microphone, however, sounds pretty okay. So you can use this for casual video calls, but probably not for professional video conferences. Now the Spin 7 comes with Windows 10 Signature Edition, which is a full-on Windows 10 minus all the bloatware that you usually get when you buy a pre-built device. I really love it. All that there really is on it is a office trial and some Acer Support software. So for our conclusion then, the Acer Spin 7 really is a great device for anyone who needs productivity, but still a very small and very lightweight device to carry around. Comes with really good battery life, the keyboard's really nice, as is the display and the audio, depending on the mode you're using it in. And overall, it's really well built as well. Plus, if the SSD gets too small for you, you can always put in a bigger one yourself. And while it's really good, it's not perfect. I would really like a backlit keyboard and perhaps move the I/O to the left side. Anyway guys, if you like this video, hit that like button. Also hit the subscribe button for the next video, which will be a GTX 1080 Ti with a really fancy cooler on it next week. And if you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link. If you want to follow the channel, there is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. For now though, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.